sitting down hurts me more than anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
My husband rides a much bigger bike.
Very cool. What do you guys drive? What do you guys drive?
Well, that 4 of them that I gave you? Generally, yeah, this way, just the single shorts.
Beverly.
I don't like, you know,
Beverly,
Yes.
the busier
if
streets.
Mike doesn't show up, do you want to be secretary for the evening?
No.
We don't have express pay or anything.
All right, I'll do it myself.
At our age now, you know, our friends go a lot of times on big old trailers or bikes, you know, and then
Yeah.
friends with our age now, we just stay around town, you know.
The guy who does my hair, Mickey. He's on there for a while. I rode motorcycles a little bit in college, not much. But my buddy had ours and everything. So, and then my buddy's in high school with that. So I never had one myself. I didn't jump on and have fun. And not anymore. Now
To
we
enjoy yourself, yeah.
no, we don't. So you can't really have a, you can't have a boat.
Yeah.
You gotta have one or the other.
Sometimes you can swing it all, depending how you get bored, you know. Where did you get out of the expense?
She is down there by Beverly right now.
Lisa's not coming.
I know, but I still put her name tag in her folder out. We'll collect it at the end. So now this is.
It'll be me. Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
6:30, I call the meeting of the Clintondale Board of Education to order. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Secretary Lisa Noak is sick this evening. I hope she gets well. Mr. Manning, are you okay? All right, so I will start with the roll, but my intention is to appoint Mr. Manning if he is willing to act as secretary. If not, I will just roll on my own. So the roll call for this evening, Trustee Lewis Moss,
Yes, I'm here.
Our Secretary Valerio Noak is excused. Trustee Manning is here. Vice President Kaminsky.
Here.
Treasurer Powers is running late. Trustee Zontini,
Yes,
present.
here.
And Mr. Maynard, I am present. That is a 5 people present. We can conduct business. In attendance also, I'm seeing our Athletic Director, Bob Walmsley, our HR Director, Lee Walmsley, our Secretary to the Board and the Secretary to the Superintendent, Ms. Wilson. And our Superintendent is here. Am I missing anybody else in attendance?
Ed.
Oh, Ed, I'm sorry, I didn't see you in the back there, I apologize. Our Director of Finance is here. Ed, thank you so very much for coming. Okay, I don't see anybody else. That covers that. Great. The first item up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Board members, as each one of you were texted by me, there is 2 additions presented before you. There are 2 correspondences. You can see them added on for Marquisha Brown and Colleen Curran, as well as we have to put them under consent item, or non-consent items, excuse me. 2AD and 1AD. You should have the new packet, so I'm looking for a motion by a board member to accept the changes to the agenda as presented.
Point of order.
Yes.
You cannot change the agenda like this.
No, what I did was I had them bring a copy so that we didn't go through last week's meeting where I missed a couple of numbers and I stopped using numbers. So they have them here so that I have the changes that we're going to go. If not, we're going back to the original agenda. That's what the deal is.
The point is, the agenda that was posted is this one.
It's right here.
That's what you have to use, and then when you make the motion to accept the changes.
Correct.
Which adding those two, that's what you should do, but
Okay.
there shouldn't be a motion
I'll try.
for correspondence, because it's a given that we will read all of the correspondence.
Okay, I'll answer that question in two ways. This agenda to your right was just prepared so that when we adopted changes, we're there. If we're not going to adopt the changes, then we'll go back to the original agenda and put them how anything on the board is. This is just so that we can keep track of ourselves in advance. It hasn't been adopted and hasn't been changed yet. Number two, the motion for the acceptance of the correspondence is there because we had no intention of reading the correspondences tonight, because as you know, because you were not at that event, you were not at that thing on Saturday,
You're
that
right.
the MASB suggested that we just receive them in now. That's why it's there. So if you'd like to
But-
strike those, I'd be more than happy to strike them.
But let me explain something. The MASB can say you can do that, but each district had their own set
And
of things that they follow, and
Sure.
Clintondale has been doing that from that time.
and if the board wishes to read each one of them, then we can go
They read
ahead.
the correspondence, and I don't see them telling you you can't. Everything that they say is not biblical.
Understand that it's not biblical. It's a suggestion for this board.
Clintondale has been, they have a history of reading the correspondence, I'm sorry.
No, that is
And we
entirely
don't
fine.
have to make a motion to read them. It's a
Okay.
given. It's laid out correspondence. Why wouldn't we read them?
Okay. Thank you very much for your opinion. We don't have to
That's
read
a
them.
fact.
We can read them. It is entirely up to us whether we choose to read them or not. The motion should be approved to accept accept the correspondences, and it doesn't.
We
So,
never have done that.
if you wish to continue to read, then we'll strike that section off the agenda. I have no objection to that. Is that true? Is that what you wish? Yes?
That's what we've always done.
Okay, so you're
And it
fine
wasn't
with,
incorrect, and we're not violating the Open Meetings Act. by
so
doing
you're
it
fine
that
with
way.
us reading them all? Just want to make sure. Ms. Kaminsky, are you okay with that?
I feel that it's unnecessary to read every letter, that we read it in our packet.
The public doesn't.
I understand that, but sometimes I feel
Correct.
that it's not necessary, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Ms. Zontini?
Could you just,
So so just to ring it up for the public, this is our public agenda.
right,
Okay, so for all of us, because this is what we have on the door, okay, although an agenda is not required under the Open Meetings Act, but we'll get there. This agenda is there for the door. This one you have in your folder adds the two changes that we need to add so that we're all on top of this item when we make them, instead of having to write little notes on the page, instead of me messing up and calling one, it should be 5. It's just simply a tool for us to guide once we get this done. Ms. Lewis Moss would like us to read all the correspondence, which I am fine with reading the correspondences. Going forward with this meeting, it doesn't necessarily mean much to me. We should do it for the public if that's what we want to do. That's what we always do it. If the board just wants to receive them, like we learned. Ms. Lewis Moss,
Don't even try that with me.
Ms. Lewis Moss, you're talking under your breath and you're not recognized, so please
Don't-
wait.
Don't do that with me.
So the discussion is,
Don't happen.
the discussion of the matter, Ms. Lewis Moss, you're out of order. The discussion of the matter is whether or not we read them all, which again, I am fine with reading them, or we accept them as a group. Now, the motion written on the page on the agenda wasn't correctly written. It should read that we are accepting all the correspondences, but it doesn't. So we can go ahead and read it going forward. I'm pretty sure that I had a little hand in making the wrong language on that agenda, but that's okay. So the question is, are you fine with reading the correspondences tonight and fine with the changes on the agenda?
I'm fine with doing that, and then we would be going back to the recommendation.
A recommendation of
That's
MASB
fine with
that we receipt them in.
Yes, fine with.
I'm not fine with it.
Okay, so that puts 3 votes for fine with reading them, 2 with not at this point. Mr. Powers, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I just attended the Parliamentary Procedure MASB seminar, and they specifically said you don't have to read the letters.
I agree with you, because that's what they said that Friday night that I took that course. So, the agenda as amended, a motion please to move to place the correspondences from Markeisha Brown and Ms. Curran on the agenda under correspondence section, and then the report appropriate action to be listed as 1AD and 2AD on the portion of the non-consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Kaminsky, is there support?
Support.
Okay, support by Ms. Zantini. Is there any further discussion?
So we're not talking about whether ultimately to read or not to read. We're talking about whether to select certain correspondences to read?
No, we are going to read them this time,
Okay.
okay? And then going further forward, we'll all have another crack at the next agenda. We'll all read our agenda before we come in here, and we'll all contact the board chair or the superintendent to say, hey, I got a problem with the agenda before we come to the board meeting, so things can be a little more ironed out.
Okay, for my
That
part,
make sense?
just in the interest of time and energy and preserving precious resources, I would like there not to be any reading of any correspondence. So that's how I'm going to vote.
All right, Ms. Lewis Moss, you have your hand up?
Yes. Anything that I have to say about the agenda, I normally say it at the table.
I appreciate that. And all I'm asking,
Because of some of the dealings some of the action that has taken place previously. So I deal with it at the board table.
and I can certainly appreciate that. The way I work things through is if you see that I've made an error in advance, I like to make sure that I put it together and have it ready to go and fix at the board table here. Communication between board members is always a good idea, and your experience is invaluable here for us, and for me especially, and I would appreciate it if you changed it a little bit, if you say, hey Jared, you didn't do this right, or hey Jared, I didn't see it.
Jared?
That's it.
As I explained, whatever I have to say, being very transparent, I do it openly at the board meeting.
And I don't have a problem if you say it to me on Thursday and say it here on Monday. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Kaminsky? You vote yes?
Yes.
Ms. Santini?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
No.
Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard? Yes. Mr. Manning? Okay, Mr. Manning has stepped away. The motion carries 4-1. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting minutes of July 24th, 2023, and the regular board meeting minutes of September 25th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I move we approve both sets of minutes.
Mr. Powers, is there support?
I will support.
Support by Ms. Kaminsky. Is there any discussion?
I just want to state for the record that the minutes of the 24th were previously approved. I have reviewed the minutes from our video, and that's how we arrived at our submission.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Santini?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard? Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Now for the correspondence section of it. For those of you that don't read these, they're all here. If somebody wants to see them after the meeting, that's fine. And one of the further items that we are working on is finding a way to place this all on the internet, so when you download your agenda, you can download the board packet as well. We're getting there, so you guys can see exactly what we see, so nothing's hidden. First
Mr. President?
The board packet is not put online.
that may be how you have done it. We're
That's
going to
how
work
the
towards
board
doing
has
it.
always done it.
We're gonna work
That
towards doing
creates
it.
problems.
There's nothing hidden in this packet here that the public can't see that I'm making a decision on, that you're making a decision on. There's absolutely nothing in here. We will take care of the sensitive information that we're supposed to take care of and get it online for people to see. Number 1, Leo Wade. I am writing to inform you of my resignation from the middle school basketball position effective for this upcoming season, 2023 to 2024. I have been blessed and fortunate to have been able to coach middle school basketball for the past 18 seasons. Thanks to all for all of your years of support. Respectfully, Mr. Wade. Next item, next letter, Alice Frankie. Dear Ms. Walmsley and the Board of Education, I am requesting a 1-year career option leave for my AFSCME union and instructional position with Clintondale. I wish to pursue another career opportunity within the district. Thank you for your time and consideration. Alice Frank, Clintondale Instructional Assistant. Third, do I not have Carlin Trailers? Okay.
You asked me to print the correspondences for resignations. You did not ask me
Okay,
for.
it's fine. I will take a second
It's
here.
in the packet, though.
It's in the packet? Okay. Just give me 1 second.
It's in Ms. Valerio Noakes' packet.
I got it right here. I dug it out of my packet. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I wanted to take this opportunity to write you and compliment my daughter Jordan's 4th grade teacher from last year, Miss Farhard. I truly believe that Clintondale Community Schools, specifically Park Elementary, is the best place because of the dedication and heart that Ms. Farhard brought to my daughter's classroom last year. My daughter not only left Ms. Farhard's classroom reading above grade level and gained solid math skills, but also learned the value of a quality teacher and many other social skills. Jordan scored a 10th grade reading level, so she was so excited, as well as myself, and very proud. As a parent, if I were possible, I would want my daughter and 2 young children to keep Mrs. Farhood as their teacher throughout their entire elementary years. As an educator myself in the Mount Clemens School District, I am able to recognize the value of an excellent teacher and a person, and Ms. Farhood exceeds that in teaching. And I hope Clintondale Community Schools appreciate Ms. Farhood's talent and dedication to her students. I have also noticed Ms. Farhood, I have also included Ms. Farhood in this email because I want her to know the positive impact she's made in Jordan's education. Thank you for all the positive you have brought to my daughter's education. You are very much appreciated. I believe, is the teacher here, Ms. Farhood? Where are you, Ms. Farhood? Could you stand up, please, and come to the podium? Ms. Farhood, when I received this letter, I want you to come to the podium real quick. When I received this letter, I was waiting for this opportunity to read this, because this is what Clintondale is about. Teachers, we have an entire staff going above and beyond to help our students and make things work. Regardless of what happens up here or what happens at that podium, we have teachers going to work every day, making sure our students and our scholars achieve their best. And you are very much an example of that. And I wanted to thank you so very much. Thank you. The next is from Marquisha Brown. Dr. Hicks, this email is to notify you that I am resigning from my position here as a high school social worker effective October 16, 2023. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to have worked in the position. I have learned a great deal during my time here and have enjoyed collaborating with a majority of my colleagues. I will take a lot of what I have learned with me in my career and will look back at my time here as a valuable period of my professional life. I will follow up with my formal letter of resignation on Monday. Thank you for all the opportunities you have provided me. I have enjoyed my time working under your supervision. I will complete all of my reports, service students, and complete all scheduled IEPs. Please let me know if I can do anything to help make this transition sooner. Marquisha Brown. Last one, Colleen Curran. To Ms. Walmsley and Dr. Hicks, please accept this letter as my formal notice of my resignation from my position as a resource room teacher at Parker Elementary. My last day of employment will be Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to work in this position for the past 6 years. I appreciate the opportunities that I have had while working here at Clintondale and value my time working with the team at Parker. The challenging circumstances within the special education department have made it evident that the culture and certain administrative decisions are not aligned with my professional and personal values. I have accepted a position with L'Anse Creuse Schools, and I believe that this is the best decision for me at this time. Please let me know how I can help make this transition as seamless as possible. Colleen Kirk. Those are the correspondences. Mr. Superintendent, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Got two things to talk about this evening in terms of reporting out. One being kind of boring as it's a conference update. The other one's a pretty exciting one that I've been working with a couple elementary school parents here recently. So we'll start off with the boring one in terms of my conference report. Got a great opportunity recently to spend 2.5 days at a superintendent conference for the state of Michigan. Opportunity there, got to spend my first full day in terms of my new Superintendent Leadership Academy, where I got to sit down and talk with some new superintendents, take place in a book study, as well as spend a lot of time looking at some the hot topics within education, as well as my role as superintendent. This was part of my initial, as I stepped into the role, volunteering and asking to be part of this academy to really continue to grow and move forward. As soon as my first half day was over with that, I moved right into the general meetings with the rest of the superintendents from all over the state of Michigan. Got a chance to meet the new superintendent who's on Mackinac Island, as well as individuals from this area in the Detroit metro area. Worked in time with looking at the idea of board relations on the first day, really spending time talking about that communication, talking about a lot of the things that I had been recommended to do from other superintendents in terms of mentors, but really got to see that put into practice and put some additional information behind it. Ending day one and moving into day two, we really started to talk about Public Act 112 from 1994 that talks about collective bargaining and the updated repeal of para. With it being such a big part of public education right now, we did spend a big chunk of our day talking about those and how that will eventually impact all public schools as we move forward with the negotiation processes, but also got a chance to then dive in. So the conference was separated into general sessions and then sessions that I got a chance to take part in personally and choose. One of them was an update from Superintendent Rice, as well as some updates from him in terms of what we're looking for in public education. I was very excited to sit in that conference and hear some of the things he's talking about, because they're things that we're doing here at Clintondale. So they talked about the early literacy intervention. They talked about early intervention for some of our youngest learners with our GSRP. So it was great to hear that connection from what we're doing here at Clintondale with expanding our GSRP and how the state's really pushing it out. Not only did the GSRP topic come up, but also a topic hits home for us in terms of all of the state of Michigan is really starting to grow our own teachers and finding ways to continue to fill those spots of educators within the state of Michigan. Finishing up day two, after going into a little bit more legislative update, got a great opportunity to talk with a school district from Oakland County about their bond process and how they went through talking about that whole process of what they did in terms of gathering information and working along. Day three was one that ended pretty nice in terms of focus on mental health, a focus on both students and staff. We've gone through a lot here in the last 5 years. I'm really looking at that focus of what we're doing. But once again, it was great to hear the conversation that was taking place and then connect it back to what we're doing here in Clintondale. It's always good when you go to a conference and you're hearing the guest speakers come in, you're hearing people talk, and then you can connect it not only with what you want to do, but with some things that we've already started here. So it was great to hear about that mental health side of things and start to look at some of those interventions that we're putting in place from behavior specialists and other staff members around the district. The 2.5 days is definitely one in terms of draining, of listening and being involved, but it was also one where I got to do some networking, working with some individuals, got a chance to meet my mentor for the first time in a face-to-face setting, so it was an overall great experience. My next one is one that was kind of exciting, and to have a couple dads, if you could wave your hand from McGlennon in the back. So I've got a couple dads in here, and I had one more individual that was going to be here, but really wanted to start branching out and looking at some community meetings. Got a chance to have some conversations recently with some McGlennon dads. Darren's no unfortunately he's not able to be here, but really started to talk about that idea of how can we get more dads involved in education in terms of a volunteering. As a previous elementary school teacher and elementary school principal, I looked at that as a great opportunity. When I would have dads volunteer, I know sometimes it's that joke where you go on the playground, you're all-time quarterback, but more importantly, it's that role model coming in. So I had a great conversation with Darren here recently, and we started to talk about what could we do to take, we've got 3 elementary schools doing different things within getting watchdogs or getting dads in, finding a way to get more individuals involved in our schools. So after some conversation with Darren, after some conversation of him having with some of the McGlennon dads, we came forward with a great opportunity where we'd like to look to move forward and move into an idea where we can have something called our Clintondale Dragon Dads. An opportunity where we can have members of the community that we are able to go through the process of ensuring they're a quality volunteer and have them involved in some little way daily, weekly, monthly, whatever they can spare. Sometimes as a dad looking at the education, you don't always know where you can volunteer your time. It could be standing at the parking lot at drop-off time. But I'm really excited to move forward with this, to not only look at the 3 elementary schools, look at McGlennon dads that are back here today, appreciate you being here, but also look at what we can do to branch into the middle school. I had a conversation with the high school administrators today. It's something that they want to do with the high school, getting more individuals involved in that volunteering side of things. So I'd like to invite anyone who's available, 5:30, before our next board meeting on October 23rd. I'll send some things out social media-wise. I encourage you to be here to have a conversation, to have some dialogue of what you could do, what we could brainstorm, to get more dads in here to volunteer, to get more dads to wear their Clintondale Dragon Dad shirt at drop-off, at new student events, at evening events, to try to represent not only Clintondale Community Schools, but a great opportunity to bring additional volunteers in. Thank you for the McGlennon dads back here once again. Thank you for being here, appreciate it. They're going to partner with us. We're actually working with the high school teachers. They've made the decision to put forth a small amount of money in terms of a contest to work with some of my high school students to come up with the emblem, the trademark, whatever we want to call it, to be the Clintondale Dragon Dads. They're going to work, some students are going to put together some mock-ups of what that could look like, and then we're going to bring it here on the 23rd for us to have a little bit more dialogue about, not only to get more dads involved, but I also want to hear from the other community members and the dads of what they would want to see in terms of this volunteer opportunity.
Board members, is there questions for the superintendent on his report? Mr. Manning? Ms. Lewis-Moss?
No.
Ms. Kaminsky?
No, sir.
Mr. Powers?
No, thank you.
Ms. Montini?
I think it's intriguing, I think it sounds exciting, and bringing parents in, bringing dads in, it's all a win-win for Clintondale.
I think you're absolutely right. I really do think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Mr. Superintendent, if you would touch on the binders that you gave everybody, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So all board members have received a binder. Within that binder, could I borrow?
Absolutely.
Yours? Within your binder, you have a series of information. I tried to encompass as much as I possibly could. This binder will be your binder that you will use in the future in terms of my superintendent evaluation. So we put together a binder. Within the binder, in the first tab, you have the presentation that we received on our Saturday board retreat about the revised 2018 superintendent evaluation. That really goes into that detail in terms of annually I must be evaluated, and in order to be evaluated, the individuals evaluating me must also have the additional training behind it. So that tab 1 goes in there. Tab 2 goes into my 90-day plan. My 90-day plan was initially presented to all of you on my second round interview, sitting right up here. My 90-day plan had 5 big areas with governance, organizational, capacity and alignment, student achievement, operations, and community relations. Within there, I put on some pretty big goals in terms of things that I wanted to see after my 90 days, and then I went into a 90-day narrative. Not only did I have the 90-day narrative plan, I've been updating the Board of Education every 30 days on the progress working towards it, and it's really helped to keep me grounded in terms of what I'm looking for. Keep me grounded in terms, these are the things that I said I was going to do, and these are the things that I've been able to accomplish. I'm a bit of a visual person, so I went a little bit step further in terms of making a nice little chart from the 30, the 60, and the 90 days. And that would be in your legal side of documents within the tab, I believe, after the blue. We then go into yellow, where I have my superintendent evaluation self-reflection and self-evaluation, where I've gone through the tool that the MASB has put forth with us and evaluated myself, and really want to focus on the idea on my 90-day plan. The job of superintendent is one that I've been in for a little over 90 days, so this evaluation being based on my 90-day plan. And the last tab I added, because it's something we have to continue to have dialogue about, would be the goals of the district that were put forth, I believe, I think a year and a half or so ago.
Thank you for explaining that. For the members of the public, we are required by law to evaluate the superintendent annually, and the first annual review is done on his 90-day plan because he wasn't here for the whole year. And then next year, there will be an entire process set forward. There will be 4 what we like to call check-ins, so that each time it'll be on the agenda, and you'll be able to check in, say what you want from the podium, let the board know, and hear on it, and we'll be speaking with Mr. Janzarek. Did I get it right this time?
No.
Okay. I'll get there.
Janzarek.
Janzarek, yes. I had it in my ear. So, as with all evaluations, I am letting you all know that Mr. Janzarek has the right to either have it in public or closed session, and he will notify myself with a written letter of which he chooses. The evaluation will go forward on October 23rd, 2023, which is our next scheduled board meeting. From there, board members have been requested in an email that they review these documents and they submit any questions for the superintendent to answer as part of his evaluation to myself. I will then forward one document over to the superintendent, and he will have 1 week from Friday evening to answer all those questions. It'll be returned to the board 2 Fridays from now. Then the board will spend the weekend reviewing what he has to say, and then depending on whether the superintendent wants an open or closed session on Monday night, we'll proceed forward with his request and his wish at that matter. So I wanted to make sure the public understood that that is how we were proceeding on this, and that it is us legally doing our job that is required for us. So I want to thank you for your report on your conference. I also want to thank you because I did speak to you on your way up, and the first night, so you can be there at 8 o'clock. You left out that the first night's room was on your own dime. So I wanted to thank you for that. Always giving a resource, giving up some time and some money from your own family. I appreciate it for the district. And I'm glad you had a very positive experience. We talked a lot about what you learned and what you can bring back. And I'm starting to see some of the stuff that you learned being implemented, and I appreciate that particular conference. And I think that's very, very good for you to be there and very good for us as a district. I'm also, as the president, ecstatic to hear about the Clintondale Dragon Dads. It's fantastic. I like that starting at McGlennon too. I'm a McGlennon Panther back in the day. But I hope that has such huge success, because the more parents see how dedicated our teachers are, the more parents are there to help and participate and process inside of the educational system. It will only make us all better. So if you're out there and you want to be a McGlennon dad and our Clintondale Dragon dad, call the superintendent's office, come to the meeting, however you want to get a hold of it, on the 23rd, and we'll be happy to plug you in and get you started. It's I'm very excited about that. It's great community outreach, and on top of it, it sends a very positive message to all of our students that all parents are involved, and I like that.
And I just want to add, at all levels too, and at all opportunities. You might just want to be the dad to stand out front in the beginning of the day. You might be the dad that wants to go in and read once a week. You might be the dad that wants to volunteer continuously. We're going to be looking to find all opportunities to get everyone involved within their comfort level to support the district.
Perfect. Does anybody have anything else for the superintendent? No? Okay. We have no presentations this evening, so we will move to public comment. We encourage you to voice your opinion on topics on the agenda. Please stand and be recognized by the chairperson and state your name and address before commenting. To provide the opportunity for all to participate, board policy limits each individual to 3 minutes. To ensure due process and respect of individual rights, the district maintains a formal process for handling complaints against individuals. A problem involving an individual or individuals or specific incident is best handled through the administrative channels. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. Speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held responsible. Is there anybody wishing for public comment this evening? Bishop Bradley? Hold on one second, sir. Let me get the clock. Apologize. Okay. Your name and address for the record, sir?
Bishop Bradley, 22645 Quinn Road, Bethlehem Temple Church, Clinton Township. Live in Harrison Township.
Thank you, sir. Do you want me to restart it for you? Okay, give me 1 second. Apologize about that. Oh, that was nice. Okay, there you go, sir.
I took note at the last board meeting of the new instructions given before public comments. The old instructions were 3 short sentences. The first was voice your opinion. The second was be recognized. The third was 3 minutes max. But now this new directive seemingly designed to intimidate the speakers with additional sentences 4 and 5 capped off with sentence 6, broken down into 3 parts. 6A, speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner, which was not the case at the May 9th, 2022 attack by the white speakers against the then black superintendent, telling him to go back to Africa, and then against the black board president, telling her that she was going to be run out of town. Then there's 6B, which adds, with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. Again, it was not so with Barry Powers, where he repeatedly digged at the past black superintendent Brodnick, even though he's no longer here, making unfound charges about which there was no prosecution or indictments, constantly maligning his character. And then finally, 6C, speakers should be aware that if your statement violates the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. My interpretation, when whites were castigating blacks, there were no changes to that earlier, shorter 3-sentence instructions. But when blacks come up to the mic to make their concerns known, it's not going to be tolerated. We're coming after you. It's in the instructions, and we're coming after you by the law and by any means necessary. So as long as whites are dishing it out, 3 sentences, but when blacks rise up to speak about blacks being targeted on a hit list, one still on the hit list, Dr. Hicks, then sentence 6 becomes in effect for any uppity black to know if you say anything we don't want you to say, we'll use every law we can to stop your right to speak in an open forum. And Mr. Maynard, from one Republican to another, you have picked a plantation to preside over, and I think it's an embarrassment to you.
Anybody else wishing for public comment this evening? No? Hearing none, the public comment portion is closed. We move on to the agenda. Consent agenda items 1 through 5. Does the board wish to isolate any of these items? Ms. Zantini? No? Ms. Lewis-Moss? Ms. Kaminsky?
No.
Mr. Powers?
No, thank you.
At this point, then a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented is in order.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Mr. Powers has moved to accept the consent agenda. Is there
I will
support? Okay. Ms. Kaminsky has supported that. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Powers?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Lewis Moss, I jumped the gun. You had a question?
You need to read it for the public.
You want me to read the consent agenda? Okay.
They normally do.
All right, then I will read the items. First is a resignation. It is recommended by the superintendent and director of athletics that the board approve the resignation of Leo Wade of middle school boys basketball, effective immediately per his email dated September 20th, 2023. My note in here for the public, because you don't get to see my agenda, which we will be changing, is that Mr. Wade has coached the middle school basketball for 18 years. Number 2, career option leave. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of human resources that the board approve a career option leave for Alice Frank, instructional assistant, for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. Ms. Frank will fill a GSRP teacher position within the district. A note to the board and for the public. Career option leaves are provided for in the AFSCME contract under Article 18, Section 3. This is a new position as we have opened up an additional GSRP room. Number 3, custodian. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of operations that the board approve Danielle Lauman as a custodian effective immediately, contingent upon approved physical, records check, and fingerprints. The note here, this is not a new position. This will fill all of the custodial needs except for maintenance level 3, which is currently posted. The rate of pay will be $15.96 per an hour, which is step 1 of the custodial group in the contract. Number 4, instructional assistant. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of special education that the board approve Tanika Jones as a special education instruction assistant at McGlennon Elementary, effective immediately, contingent upon approved physical, records check, and fingerprints. Note, this is not a new position again. This hire is due to a recent resignation. Tanika has an associate's degree. The rate of pay will be $21.42 per an hour, which is step 6 of the instructional assistants group. Number 5, paraprofessional per CTE. It is recommended that the superintendent and the high school principal that the board approve Amy Guadi as a CTE culinary arts professional in the high school, effective immediately, contingent upon approved physical, records check, and fingerprints. Note, this is not a new position. This hire is due to a recent resignation. This is a 5.75 hour per a day position, and the rate of pay will be $21.45 per an hour. This is a non-union position. Any board members wishing, again, to remove any item after being read? None. I have one item of discussion before I call the roll. Ms. Walmsley, is everything in here, all of the contracts, all of the pays, done correctly according to the contract?
Yes.
And many people in the public may be asking why I ask you that every meeting, because we've had a little problem with that, and that's why I continue to ask you that every meeting, because we are doing things by the book and by the law here. Any other questions? I will call the roll. Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Ms. Lewis Moss? Ms. Zontini?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes. The motion carries 6-0. Non-consent items. Number 1, it is recommended by the superintendent and the director of special education that the board approve Saranda Patchell as a special education speech pathologist at Rainbow Elementary, effective immediately, contingent upon approved physical, records check, and fingerprints. For the public, we have a note that says, this is not a new position. This hire is due to a resignation. The rate of pay will be $68,672, and it is step 9 of the MA salary scale, which is prorated to the number of days worked in the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Patchell has 8 years of experience. I am now seeking a motion to approve this hire.
So moved.
Mr. Manning makes the motion to approve the hiring of Saranda Patchell. Is there support?
I will support.
I have support from Ms. Zontini. Is there a discussion from any board members? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Ms. Zontini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard votes yes, 6-0. Item carries. Number 2, long-term substitute teacher. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of special education that the board approve Alice Jenneret as a special education long-term substitute teacher in the I-campus, effective October 12, 2023. For the public, because you do not see this, note is Mrs. Jeanette will substitute for an I-campus teacher who is on leave. The rate of pay will be $200 a day, and Mrs. Gillette will be paid by Clintondale because she is a retired teacher and former district employee. The chair lays before the board a motion to approve this hire.
So moved.
Mr. Manning, is there support?
Support.
Support by Ms. Zontini. Is there any discussion by the board? I will ask my question. Ms. Walmsley, is this the correct rate of pay, and has she be hired under the correct process?
Yes.
Thank you. Hearing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Ms. Zontini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
And Mr. Maynard votes yes. It is 6-0, the motion carries. Item 1AD, resignation. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of human resources that the board approve the resignation of Marquisha Brown, high school special education social worker, effective October 16th, 2023. Ms. Brown, this is the note in the agenda because you don't see it. Ms. Brown has worked for the district for 18 months. Is there a motion to accept the resignation of Ms. Brown?
So moved.
Support by Ms. Kaminsky. Is there, or motion by Ms. Kaminsky, excuse me, is there support for the action?
Support.
By Ms. Zontini. Okay, any discussion on the matter? Okay, I will call the roll. Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Ms. Zontini?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
And Mr. Maynard, yes. The motion carries 6-0. Item 2AD, resignation. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of human resources that the board approve the resignation of Colleen Curran, a Parker Elementary resource room teacher, effective October 31st, 2023. The note here for the public, because again, you don't see it. Colleen Curran has worked for the district for the past 6 years. Is there a motion to accept the resignation? We have had a consistent problem this
Yes,
evening
we
and
have.
many evenings with talking under our
Go
breath.
ahead.
Okay? That is not an acceptable opportunity here. If you have something to say, raise your hand and I'll say it for you. Or you'll say it for me so I can hear it.
Myself.
You can certainly do that when you're recognized. Is there a motion to accept the resignation of Colleen Curran?
So moved.
Ms. Kaminsky, is there support?
Support.
Support by Ms. Zontini. Is there any discussion? Board members, I would just like to say that this is now a consistent thing inside of the special education department. I spoke with Mr. Janzarek today, and he is working with the department director to figure out the solutions that we need to have forward. We have multiple teachers who have left us, and they're leaving us in the middle of the year, and it's not really helping our students. So Ken is aware of this situation, and Ken is working to get our plan together going further. I see Ms. Lewis Moss wishes to be recognized. Ms. Lewis Moss?
It's not just the special ed. We've had teachers leave Rainbow, McGlennon, and Parker. So it's not just special ed. You need to look at how many teachers have left since January.
So
And
Ms.
they have not all been in special ed.
So, Ms. Lewis Moss, part of the board function is to both listen and hear, and I believe I did say to myself that we have this resignation in special education part, and we have other teachers leaving us during the year, which is not effective for any of our teachers here or any of our students. This is a disservice, and we have to fix the multiple problems floating around in every piece of this particular item. And when the superintendent and I had a conversation today, he can express to you that this exact tone that I have today was worse on the phone with him, because this stuff has got to stop. Our students are not being serviced well if we have teachers leaving for whatever reason. So we have to come together as a family again and make sure that we bring everybody in. We have our 2 listening ears open and our 1 mouth closed so that we can get stuff together and accomplished for every single student in this district. I am, Ms. Lewis Moss,
I'm not a child,
I know you're not.
so don't.
Is there any other discussion? No? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Ms. Zontini?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard votes yes. 6-0, the motion carries. We are now at the portion of general public comment for items not on the agenda. Get this ready, I apologize. We encourage you to voice your opinion on topics not on the agenda. Please stand and be recognized by the chairperson and state your name and address before commenting. To provide for the opportunity for all to participate, board policy limits each individual to 3 minutes. To ensure due process and respect of individual rights, the district maintains a formal process for handling complaints against individuals. A problem involving an individual or individuals or a specific incident is best handled through administrative channels. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. Speakers should be aware that if your statement violates the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. Is there anybody wishing to have public comment under this section? Mr. Bradley, just give me 1 second, it turns off. Your name, sir, and your city for the record.
Bishop Bradley, 22645 Quinn Road, Bethlehem Temple Church, Clinton Township. I live in Harrison Township.
Are you ready to start?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me just.
You, Louis Moss, are my Madam President, and I come here because you need the visible presence of at least one black supporter in this audience, because you are a survivor. One of those who all black were put on that infamous hit list to be gotten rid of after that last election. The goal being to return the board to a majority white rule in a majority black district, with the board even appointing 4 whites to vacant seats with nary a serious consideration of a qualified black who was a past board member. And after that, the choosing of a white superintendent who had never been a superintendent before, even when there were 2 or more qualified blacks who were immediately eliminated in the first round of Clintondale's selection process. So, Madam President, you, the only black, still sit in your seat because you cannot be gotten rid of because you were elected. I want you to know that I'm going to be here to support you as well as to reveal the numerous irregularities that exist in this district. For example, the forging of your signature having to do with an annuity that my understanding is you knew nothing of. Then there is this cover-up of the white female teacher who had sex with her black students. Then the calling of black students at Robbie Hall Parker MFers. Next, the racial attack on a black female security guard calling her a negress by white custodians. Makes you ask the question, is Clintondale a school board or a criminal enterprise? And I believe that time and foyers are going to tell the whole story. But this one thing I have now accepted, contrary to what I've heard twice today, this district does not exist for the betterment of its students. It exists for the enrichment of those who can find creative ways to access its annual revenue. But I'm going to be here. You can't stop my voice, but I do hold out this hope that what's done in the dark will eventually be brought to the light. And Mr. President, in our brief comments today, Mr. Superintendent, rather, in our brief comments today, I just want to say you should leave here because this is not good for your resume.
Thank God for the First Amendment.
Is there anybody else wishing to have public comment this evening? Hearing none, the public comment portion of the meeting is now closed, and we will move on to approval of the bills. Is there a motion to approve the bills ending September 29th, 2023?
I move to approve the bills.
Mr. Powers, is there support for that?
Support.
Support, Ms. Zantini. Great. Is there any discussion on the bills? None? Ms. Kaminsky, did all of your questions get answered on the bills?
They did not.
They did not?
They did not.
And
I'm okay with moving forward.
you're okay with moving forward?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Any other discussion on the bills? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Zantini?
Yes.
Mr. Manning? Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard votes yes. Motion carries 6-0. I would like the board to allow me 1 minute. I've acted in a lot of different areas since January. And one of those areas was as secretary for 4 weeks, just as I did tonight, to make sure that the public sees and hears everything. When I hear that we read the correspondences, I'm here to tell you, I was handed 2 correspondences when I was secretary acting. One of them I was encouraged to read. It was edited, blocked out. Things that people didn't want to see or hear or want read were blocked out. Luckily, I had the one that's in our board packet, which isn't unedited, which was read for the record. This is why the board packet is going to be on the agenda, and it's going to be on the internet, for all of you to see exactly what's going on, so you can read everything unedited. Now that process stopped when I refused to read the unedited thing, and I think the February meeting. It stopped, as it should have been. Now, to whatever point this was, I don't know who the process started under. I wasn't here. But I do hear the stories that things were edited and blocked out and chose not to be read. I can tell you all now, if it's submitted in writing, we will read it. It will be part of the record. You will be noted. It will be on the internet for all to see. And I understand we're having a little comments and whispers in the audience right now. That's fine. But when it comes straight down to it, the way we've always done things here at Clintondale, should all probably know the way we've done things at Clintondale. This president isn't doing those things. This president is going up and up and up. You're going to see it. You're going to believe it. If you file a FOIA, you're going to get the information. If you go through and do everything, you're going to get it. You'll see changes so that you can read the agenda and that you can read the board packet in a more clear manner so that it is not put up for the way it is for us. This information is here for anybody who wants to come up and see it. At the end of the day, this is going to be transparent here. At the end of the day, my fellow board members, thank you for participating and commenting and working through the process. We're going to get it right sometimes, and sometimes we're going to get it wrong. And sometimes the solution, Ms. Lewis-Moss, I see your hand. Rest assured you'll have your moment. Rest assured that we're going to get it right in the end, and it may take us a little longer. And there may be times where you hear things, and I want you all to know this. You're hearing a snippet of the story that somebody wants you to hear. And at this table, we hear it all. We have stuff that comes forward to us when we have considerations, when we go up into that room and we see a legal opinion. The superintendent has to go through and tell us step by step how it worked, what happened, etc. And we ask questions. Somebody puts something on the paper, like Heather Halpin does a presentation. We all get it in advance so that we can read it, we can ask her questions, and we can understand what's coming forward. These are things we all spend our time doing on your guys' behalf and on the behalf of every single student in this district. And some people may have, it was pointed out tonight, one Republican to another. It was pointed out that tonight. And I want to just say this. My interest in politics and in being in school boards and talking about this and helping train the public thought to do what's best for everybody and to keep everything open started here in Clintondale. You see it on the door. It all started here. So at the end of the day, when people sit down and we talk through the situation, I welcome any discussion coming forward. And any information that I have, you're more than welcome to it. And I'm going to see that you see it all. Because who knows? Maybe you're going to see something that I just missed and needs to be pointed out to me to say, hey, Jared, did you consider it this way? And I'm going to be like, sure, let me take a think of that. Because that's the way the best policies and the way the decisions are made here on this board. But I am going to literally... Mr. Bradley, I was just referencing what you said, not anything.
I thought there should be no responses to what the
I'm not responding to this.
And if so, then I should be able to respond to the comment that you made
Okay.
that I made.
Mr. Bradley, I did not respond to your comment. What I did was I'm talking about the discussion on the correspondence.
Only one person said one Republican.
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Bradley, it won't happen again. At the end of the day, we're all here as one family. We're all here. It says Clintondale Community Schools. All of us. One family. And the one thing I can say is every correspondence is read. Read in full, unedited. by me. And anybody who sits in this secretary position will do the same. Ms. Lewis Moss, you requested to be recognized.
I think you need to check with the attorney to see what you can post online.
I agree with you 100%. He will review the packet and we will black out what we have to. Mr. Manning.
We can't stop anybody from going to the podium under the First Amendment laws. What bothers me is when people go up there and start making things up. Or if they speak on their own presumption of the truth. You know, I don't know legally how much I can say here, but, you know, the one thing about the correspondence that I know for a fact, Mr., what was our last superintendent's name? I'm sorry, I forgot. Broadnax?
Ms. Van Sweden, and then before him, Mr. Broadnax, and before him, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Mr. Broadnax used to read some of the correspondence. And then I would I'd get a phone call, or I would receive the true correspondence, and I received from two different people. One was an employee that worked in the administration office, and one was a director of tech here at Clintondale. Their correspondence were trashed, and one was just made up. There was a lot of stuff going on, trying, you know, people's self-agendas, and they're trying to keep the narrative the way they want it. I believe strongly in the First Amendment, but I don't like it when people fabricate their narrative, because that's the narrative that they want. The gentleman that said, go back where you came from, I served with on this board, one of the most dedicated board members that ever was here at Clintondale. What he was saying was he wanted him to go back to his last teaching position. How someone else can interpret what's going on in someone's head and say it as a fact, I'd like to ask you what the next 1.5.
Mr. Manning, let's.
You know, a lot of those
My
numbers are gonna be.
understanding here's my understanding.
Okay, I'll quickly, Bishop.
My understanding is that when the public speaks, there should be no response from the board about what the public says. And if you want to make a comment, then the public person that you are referencing at least should be given the dignity to come back up and respond to what it is that you are, quote unquote, correcting.
Mr. Bradley, I will say this to you and to everybody. If a board member makes a comment and it's correcting something you stated, I will allow the same thing to you as to any person to come up and have a difference back. All I said to you was that I was quoting you and I did not misquote you.
I'm referring to what he just said.
Okay, so,
Not you.
all right, okay, I just want to make sure.
What he's saying is referencing something that I said.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
My understanding is that there should be, this is what my understanding, I go to the Macomb County Commissioners meeting, I go to the trustee board meeting, every comment that I ever hear, every statement that I ever hear is there would be no response to what the public has to say. And I'm just simply saying, if there is a response to what the public has to say, then allow the public to come back
Oh,
and
absolutely.
give the countering
Mr.
cue.
Bradley, and if there is a
Absolutely.
need for it, I will do it. That's how I operate, and I've
Then
seen
he
it
should
many.
be quiet.
I will speak to him later. Is there any further discussion? Motion to adjourn is in order. Anybody want to make it?
So moved.
Mr. Manning, is there support?
Support.
Mr. Powers, you're pensive.
Sorry.
Oh, I got you, Diane. All those, excuse me, all
Could
those,
I, I'm sorry, could I be heard?
okay?
On the motion?
On the motion, sure, to adjourn, yes.
Before we adjourn, I just want to stress that nobody here inhibits your ability to speak at all freely. But we have to have order. And when you can't show this board or its chairman due respect, act like a proper adult with proper etiquette and civility, then you will be asked to leave. And I, for one,
Are
am
you
only going to
talking to
tolerate.
me?
Pardon me, you're out of order, sir.
Mr.
No, I'm not
Powers,
out of
please hold
order.
on.
Chairman,
Are
we
you
need order.
referencing me, sir?
Mr. Powers.
need order.
Mr. Powers, please on. Mr. Bradley,
He's a lot,
Mr. Bradley, I do not, excuse me, Bishop Bradley, I do not believe he's referencing you.
all right.
So I'd like to remind everybody that the chair is doing, it appears to me, in one board member's opinion, all the chair can do to keep this process orderly and fair to everybody within Robert's Rules of Order. The Robert's Rules of Order are designed to ensure fairness and respect and civility. So the more that is enforced, the more power to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none and hearing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Ms. Zontini? Ms. Lewis Moss?
Yeah.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all. Our next meeting is October 23rd, and we are adjourned as of 7, excuse me, what time is it? 8:31? 7:31.
Pardon me? I didn't make the statement I just made. I don't understand what you mean. Pardon me?
The way you did stop.